Hello, and welcome to Moonwalker Mondays. By now you know that I didn't believe the entire documentary at all. I did a two-part review of Leaving Neverland. The second part, of course, was my real review. And then I did a comparison of Michael Jackson and Wade Robson and James Safechuck when talking about their abuse. If you missed that video, definitely check it out after watching this one. This video, I'm going to talk about some of the things that were said in interviews in which I didn't believe. And these were some of the things that Wade Robson and James Safechuck were talking about. However, this is not going to be a long video. And this is only going to be some of the things that they said that I didn't believe at all. And I'm going to start with James Safechuck.
He would tell me that if anybody found out, his life would be over and my life would be over. And that's something he tells you over and over again.
Now you heard what James Safechuck said right there. He said that Michael Jackson told him that if anybody found out about the sexual relations that they were hiding, that his life and Michael Jackson's life would be over. This is not a true statement because if Michael Jackson would have said that, James Safechuck would have went to the police to file criminal charges against Michael. Obviously, this was not a true statement, and this is similar to the statement that Wade Robson said, and you will see that clip later in the video. This statement was most likely talked about between Wade and James, or even Wade and Dan Reed, or James and Dan Reed. Could have been either one of those combinations, but I definitely can tell you that this was a made-up statement by either one of them. Now I'm going to show a clip of James Safechuck talking about the ring that he says Michael Jackson bought for him.
So we were like this married couple. And I say married because we had this mock wedding ceremony. And the ring is nice. It has a row of diamonds with a gold band. The wedding ring.
That ring that James Safechuck showed in Leaving Neverland and was talking about, he could have bought that at a local pawn shop somewhere, or it could be his mother's. Since there is no video or photo evidence of Michael Jackson and James Safechuck showing the ring, and as a result, I can't believe James Safechuck's story about the ring. If there would have been video or photo evidence of the ring, and that would have been showed in a picture or video with Michael Jackson and James Safechuck in it, that would have been proof. However, there is none, so I can't believe James Safechuck's story about the ring. Now I'm going to talk about Wade Robson. This is where he talks about bloody underwear.
I think I was picked up again by Michael's driver and brought to the dance studio where he was back in rehearsals. Right away, he just went right into it. He was kind of super nervous and said, "What did you do with your underwear from last night?" I said, I don't know. I took them off and, showered and put new ones on. He said, "You got to go home and find them." And I don't know if there's any, there might be some blood on them. If there is, you got to get rid of them. We got back in the car and he drove me back to the condo, and luckily, not luckily, I guess my mother hadn't found them, hadn't tried to clean them or anything yet. I found the underwear and there was some drops of blood on the inside.
Your blood.
My blood.
Your blood.
I grabbed them, sort of stuffed them in my pocket, down into the garage, and threw them in the bin. That was the last sexual experience that I remember with Michael.
This story would have been true if Wade Robson would have provided evidence of the bloody underwear that he supposedly had back in the day. And if he would have provided it for the documentary, I would have believed his claims. However, just like with the entire documentary, there was lack of evidence that supports their claims. One of the biggest problems that I had with leaving Neverland. And many of the statements that they made, I can't believe. These two people are trying to get you to believe word of mouth over evidence, rather than having evidence in their back pocket for the documentary. For the last video that I'm going to show, of course, I mentioned it earlier, and I said that I'm going to show you the clip with Wade Robson talking about what Michael Jackson told him what would happen if anybody found out.
If they ever found out what we were doing about this sexual stuff, that he and I'd be pulled apart, and that we'd never be able to see each other again, and that he and I would go to jail for the rest of our lives. You know, as soon as the cop started asking me these questions, the first thing that came to mind for me was everything that Michael started saying to me when I was 7. You know, if anyone ever found out that we were doing any of these sort of things, these sexual things, that he and I would go to jail for the rest of our lives.
This statement is identical to the one that James Safechuck said.
He would tell me that if anybody found out, his life would be over and my life would be over.
If they ever found out what we were doing about this sexual stuff, that he and I'd be pulled apart, and that we'd never be able to see each other again, and that he and I would go to jail for the rest of our lives.
And as a result, it is most likely that both Wade and James were talking behind the scenes about it. Or they could have been talking about it with Dan Reed. There is no question about it that the statement that was said at the beginning of the video that James Safechuck said and the one that Wade Robson just said are the exact same statement. Just like I said at the beginning of the video, if Michael Jackson would have said that statement, either how Wade Robson or James Safechuck said it, both Wade and James would have went to the cops immediately. And the biggest reasons why they didn't go to the cops immediately after hearing that statement by Michael Jackson is because that statement never happened. It was never said by Michael Jackson. And I know that for a fact. Because Michael would never pressure a kid and say that to them. In conclusion, now you know why I didn't believe Wade Robson and James Safechuck in leaving Neverland. In the last video, I talked about their lack of emotion when talking about their abuse. In this video, I talked about some of the clips in which Wade Robson and James Safechuck made statements about Michael Jackson. I didn't believe those statements for 1 second, especially when there's no evidence that backs up their claims, especially the bloody underwear story that Wade Robson made. If there was evidence of bloody underwear, that definitely would have helped to back up their claims. But since they showed no evidence of that, that statement that Wade Robson made was not true at all. The only way I would believe their claims is with a lie detector test. If they ever took the lie detector test and passed, I would believe them in a heartbeat. However, I doubt they'll ever take the lie detector test because I know they would fail it. Until they take the lie detector test and pass, do not believe Wade and James, and do not believe Leaving Neverland. I definitely highly recommend that you do not believe Leaving Neverland or Wade and James until a lie detector test is done and they pass it. If the last video didn't convince you that Michael Jackson was innocent against Wade Robson and James Safechuck's claims, this video should do the trick. I talked about some of the statements that I didn't believe were true. And I also talked about their lack of evidence that could have proved their claims, especially a lie detector test. And I hope you do not believe Wade and James for 1 second. Because once the truth really comes out, you're definitely going to be dumbfounded. Unless, of course, you believe me now. Later. If you are interested in more Michael Jackson videos, please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications on new videos.